Shavua Tov, Dov.
Shavua Tov, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, and you?
Thank God, all is well. Let's just wait a couple of minutes in case anybody else is getting on. Okay. All right. I guess let's get started. So we're on 19b, the Mishnah at the bottom.
Your tidbit. Okay.
All right, so we're in the Mishnah. The Mishnahs are discussing here the procedure for the night before the night of Yom Kippur, and the Kohen Gadol stayed up all night. If he seemed to be nodding off to sleep. So making lefanov pirchei kahuna making lefanov betzvat tzreida. The young Kohanim would snap their fingers. Basically, tomorrow we'll discuss what this is. Etzvat tzreida.
So where are you?
19b, the Mishnah at the bottom. We just started. The Omri law, and they would say to them, Ishi Kohen Gadol, my master Kohen Gadol, Amod v'hafegachas ala ritzvah, cool off once on the floor, because they had stone floors in the Mikdash, and so presumably they were cooler. Maybe that would rouse him. And they would keep him busy one way or another until the time came for him to start the avodah, to do the shechita, the slaughtering of the first sacrifice. My tzreida, what is this etzvat tzreida? Amar Yehuda, sarasa dada. The sarasa dada, the opposite or the opposing, tzara is used. For example, a co-wife is a tzara, right? It's kind of in a negative sense, but not necessarily. Here we see that it's the finger opposite the thumb, which we're going to say is the middle finger. Obviously, when you snap your fingers, you get the best effect if you use your middle finger. Why that is exactly, I'm not sure. And why you would call that opposite the thumb, I'm not sure. But as the Gemara says right now, Maihi Gudal, what is the one, like the opposite of that one? The one is the thumb. So that somehow means the middle finger. And that's indeed how one snaps one finger. It snaps one's fingers. Rav Huna demonstrated this. He snapped his fingers, and it was so loud that the whole, you could hear it in the whole study hall. He was a good finger snapper. He would have been a good one to be there with the Kohen Gadol to keep him away. The Omri, they would say to him, the Mishnah said, "Ishi Kohen Gadol hafegach hasal ritzvah." Cool off one foot or one time on the floor. Amar Yitzchak al chadas. Rabbi Yitzchak says, what does it mean, hafeg? It means yeah. So how did going on the floor help him stay up? So I explained that maybe the floor was cool, right? Which I think was a general understanding. But Rav Yitzchak says, what did they say to him? Chadas, like al chadas, tell us something new. Show us something, some skill on the floor. Maihi, what did they ask? What were they asking him? Amrle achve kida. They said to him, show us how you do kida, which is this type of bowing that was done in the Yom Kippur service. So apparently this wasn't easy to do. It's like, some kind of squat. If you basically do something that gives you some exercise, gets the blood flowing, that'll keep you awake, right? If you're nodding off at your desk, you get up and do some jumping jacks, that'll wake you up. So this was the kind of thing they asked him to demonstrate, a physically exertive task that was part of the avodah. They would keep him busy until the time came to start the Avodah. Tana, the Mishnah says, they wouldn't do it with music. You can't play instruments on Yom Tov, after all. Ella b'peh, it would be a cappella. They would sing. What did they sing? Or maybe states, whatever, but it sounds like they would sing, like the alternative to playing music. So they would use this song, or the verse set to music perhaps of this verse. If God does not build a house, then those humans who try to build it will have labored in vain. In other words, if God doesn't want something, then it won't happen. I saw some attempt to explain this as some reference or allusion to the avoda of the house, meaning the temple, but it's not so clear how it means that. Why they picked this verse? It's a good religious music, right? If Dveikus would have sung this music, we put this verse to music, we would have enjoyed it very much, I'm sure. Then there were those, the kind of leaders of Yerushalayim would not sleep all night either. So that the Kohen Gadol, even though he's isolated, but he would be on his balcony or whatever, he'd hear the noise going around, he'd hear that the city was awake, and so he wouldn't be lulled into sleep. Tanya, Abishol said, they would also do this outside of Yerushalayim as a reminder of the Mikdash. They would stay up all night. But what happened was they would end up coming to sin. So basically, they would have, gatherings, party, whatever, would turn into a party, and they would end up taking inappropriate action. Rashi says Masachim Anashim Benashim Yachad, because it would be mixed sex gatherings. And they would come to sin, and especially on Yom Kippur, one is not supposed to engage in sexual relations. So perhaps this led to a specific violation of Yom Kippur. So clearly counterproductive for people to gather and stay up all night. Yes, obviously mixed dancing, as James pointed out. Amar Abaye, V'Tamer Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Terguma, Targuma Naharda. Targuma means, one second. Oh yeah, Targuma explained this statement as Naharda, what would happen in Naharda. When they said these gatherings happened outside Yerushalayim and it led to sin, we're talking about the city of Naharda and Bava. Eliyahu, this is presumably Eliyahu and Navi, said to Rav Yehuda, the brother of Rav Sala, you people ask, why didn't Mashiach come? Now it's Yom Kippur. The Ibul Kama Basulta bin Narda, and in Narda, you have a lot of sex going on. You're wondering why Mashiach didn't come. Look what's going on Yom Kippur in Narda. Amalei, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ma'amar. What did so he said? So Rav Yehuda said to him, "What did God say about this going on?" Amalei, he answered, Sin is waiting for you at the door. That's what God said to Cain when he killed his brother and told him to do tshuva. He said, if you don't do tshuva, then sin is waiting for you at the door. The Satan, what did the Satan say? Amalei, Satan b'Yoma Kippur leisle reshus alastoni. Satan didn't say anything because he doesn't have permission to speak on Yom Kippur. Mimai, how do you know that? Amarami Barchama said ha-Satan, big gematria. The word ha-Satan, the Satan in gematria is Tlasmeos Vashishim Biarbahabe, 364, right? Sin is 300, Nun is 50, Tes is 9, it's 359, and 5 for the Hay is 364. So he noticed that 364 is one less than the number of days of a solar year. So 364 days of the year, Hasatan has permission to speak beyond the Kippur, but one day a year, Yom Kippur, then he can't say anything. Anyway, this story is intended to show that this was something that was known to have happened in the Hardal. Next Mishnah.
Excuse me. Bill, where are you?
I'm sorry?
Can you just tell me what line you're on?
I'm sorry, we're 20a, the Mishnah about the 7th line.
Thank you.
Now we've gotten through the night of Yom Kippur and it's morning. Now, B'chol Yom, every other day of the year, they would start the procedure in the morning, which was to the Trumas Hadeshin, the removing of the ashes from the Mizbeach. They took one shovel full of ashes, removed it from the Mizbeach. That would happen at when the rooster crowed, the Kriyas HaGever. We'll see, the Gemara will discuss what is the Gever here, because Gever also means man, but it's usually understood, as the Gemara will say, as the rooster. When the rooster crowed, there's no exact time that the rooster crows, a little before, a little after. It's like when it feels like the rooster is crowing time, then that's when they would start doing the removing of the ashes. It would be on Kippurim, Mechatzos. So Yom Kippur, they would start earlier at midnight, presumably, as we'll see, because there was a lot to do that day. And also, if you started later, then the service would go later. The Kohen Gadol is very strenuous and he's fasting. And, the earlier he can finish, the earlier he can go take a nap. And remember, he was staying up all night too. So over Golim and on the festivals, on holidays, they would start even earlier because there was really a lot of work to do. You had all these people bringing their karbanos. All the people came from all around to Yerushalayim. So there was really a lot of work to do. So they would start as early as possible, meaning from the end of the first watch. The night was split into 3 parts, 3 watches. So after 1/3 of the night, at the end of the first third, that's when they would start doing the preparing for the avodah. And on those holidays, by the time you got to rooster crowing time, the whole courtyard was full of people because of all the people that would be there. Okay, Gemara says, it's not some. We have a brisa. What happens if you have limbs that were brought up to the mizbeach to be burned? And what happens if they kind of exploded off the mizbeach? So I'm not sure exactly what they envision happening here, but let's say the fire was very hot, and you throw something on it and it kind of explodes and gets thrown off the mizbeach. So what do you do? So kodem chatzos, if it's before midnight, yachzir, then you take it back onto the mizbeach. In other words, it's still considered the time that you should. It's like still the previous day in the sense that this is something that was supposed to go on the mizbeach that night. So it's still valid for that. So you should put it back. And if somebody used it for their own purposes, it's still kaching. Like it's still something that was supposed to. The part of the service was supposed to be done with it. So misusing it is considered me'ilah, misusing temple property. But if this thing got thrown off the mizbech after midnight, lo yachzer, then you don't put it back on. vein molding, and then it's not considered meila because it's not considered kachim anymore. Whatever happened to the on mizbeach happened. Okay, so it got thrown off, and it wasn't all burnt yet, but it's after midnight, so it's not really. It's not subject to being part of the avoda anymore. So there's no meila, and you don't put it back on the mizbeach. Minan meila, how do you know? Rav says, there's two verses. One says that implies that all night is good for offering something on the altar, and another one says that all night is valid for removing the ashes. So what is it like? Is it being burnt at night, or is the ashes being removed at night? It seems to be kind of overlapping. So the way he interprets it is, okay, so you have half the night for each. The first half of the night is for burning. Second half of the night is for removing the ashes. So that's why midnight is the dividing line. If something was on the mizbeach until after midnight, then it's considered it's done, and then it's no longer kachim. And the first half of the night it still needs to be burned. Masir Rav Kana asks from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says every day you do the removing of the ashes from the rooster crowing time, around the rooster crowing time. We only and from Yom Kippur, on Yom Kippur you do it from midnight. And on the holidays you do it from the first end of the first watch, which is before midnight. So how can you be, if you want to say that the Torah is telling you that the first half of the night is for burning the sacrifice and the second half of the night is removing the ashes, what are you doing removing the ashes after the first watch, which is before midnight? If you think that the Torah is telling you that you split the night in half, how can you do the removing of the ashes so early, before midnight? Contradicts our Mishnah. Rav Yochanan says no. There's another facet here. What I get from doing it says to do it all night, right? That you can burn it. So burning of the avarim, of the pieces of the sacrifice, means all night. So it also says ad haboker, right? Can't remember the beginning of the pasuk, but call ad haboker, all night until morning. That's redundant, right? All night is until morning. What does it mean? Why does it say until morning? So this is a bit of a strange read, but he's saying, like, besides the morning, make there be another morning. So in other words, move the morning up, right? By saying all night until the morning, it's kind of cutting the night short, saying that there's a boker, a morning, before the real morning. It's, like I said, a bit of a strange read. Hilkach, so how do I understand that? So every day, on a regular day, you use the cock crowing time. There's enough time there to, remove the ashes and still get to the work of the next day. On Yom Kippur, where you have concern about the Kohen Gadol, you don't want him to become too weak to continue, so start early. So start preparing from midnight. For the Fishe Shol and Fishe Karbanos, on holidays where there's lots of people and lots of Karbanos, then you do it from the first end of the first watch. As the Mishnah continues, that there were so many people, the courtyard would be full even by the time that the rooster crowed. So, in other words, what the Torah is actually saying is not like we said in the first attempt, that you split the night in half. You split the night somehow, right? Like it's not specific how you should split the night. If necessary, you can split the night into a third and 2/3. If necessary, you can split it half and half. If necessary, it's 2/3 and 1/3. It's like whatever you need to do is fine, but part of the night is for burning, part of the night is for removing the ashes. That's what So that would accord all right with our Mishnah, which describes exactly that. My Kriyas Gever. So now the Gemara wants to know, what is this term, the calling of the Gever, the Gever? Rav Amar Kra Gavra. Rav says it means a man calls. Rav Shela Amar Kra Tarnagola. Rav Shela says it means the rooster calls. So now we're going to go back and forth and try and determine which is correct. Rav Ikol Asr de Rabbi Shela. Rav got to the place of Rabbi Shela. And there was, so the way that Torah was taught is that the teacher would sit and teach, and there would be an interpreter or an announcer, if you will, that would kind of broadcast what he was saying, who had like a loud voice, or he would maybe add some interpretation. It would be kind of the verbal art scroll, and there was nobody there to do the announcing. Come Rav Alai, so Rav got up, come Farish. So Rav got up and he started to do it, right? He said, there's nobody here, so I'll do it. My Kriyas Gever Kra Gavra. So when Rabbi Shela taught this Mishnah that the time for the regular time for the removing of the ashes was at the time when the Gever called. So Rav explained, it means when the person, or when there was a person who would call out the time or whatever. Rav Shela says to him, like, well, what do you mean person? The guy, why don't you say that this is from the time that the rooster calls? So Rav says, Abuv lachare zamar lagardai lo kablu amine. So he kind of criticized Rav Shela. He said, like, when you play a flute for important people, sophisticated people, that's music. But if you play it for regular people, for weavers, so then they don't get it. It's like if I go to if I listen to what's the Hungarian composer, starts with a B, very modern. Sorry, Bartok. Yeah, so the first time I heard Bartok, I'm like, what the heck is this? This is not music. It's so atonal. I didn't enjoy it at all. But people who, know music, so they're like, they're sophisticated enough to understand it. So in other words, he's saying, like, he's criticizing Rav Shela, saying, like, you're not sophisticated enough to understand that this is not a metaphor, but it doesn't literally mean a person. It means something else. It means a rooster. Hold on a second, please. Sorry. Alexa, hang up. Okay. So he's like criticizing the teacher, like, you're not sophisticated enough to enjoy my interpretation. And he continues, when I was before Rav Chia and explained my Kriyas Gever Kra Gavra, and I explained the Gever is not a person, but it's a rooster. He didn't say anything. He accepted that. And you're saying to me, Ema Kra Tarnagola. So you should say to me, it's the call of the rooster. Amalei Marniu Rav. So Rav Shela now realizes, apparently he didn't realize who he was talking to. He says, "Are you Rav? Ninachmar." And if you're Rav, so then, like, you should go take a seat. Like, you shouldn't be my interpreter. That's like too menial a job for you. So Amalei. So Rav said to him, "Amrei inshe itgart leputz amrei." If you've been hired, then you should do the dirty work. If you've already been hired, then finish the job. You do the like comb out the wool, which isn't a pleasant job. But if you've already been hired, then finish what you were hired to do or what you started to do. Or some say hachi amalei, or some say rav satem malin bakodesh v'lo maridin. Like once I've started this important job, I'm not gonna go sit in the audience. So the whole exchange is a little strange, right? Like he didn't know who Rav was, and then Rav kind of embarrassed him basically, or criticized him for not being sophisticated enough. And then Rav is like, I'm too important to, like it started out kind of humbly, like not humbly exactly, but look, there's something needs to be done, so I'll get up and do it. And now, like, don't tell me to sit down. I'm doing this thing. I'm not sure what to make of all this.
You can use that phrase like colloquially, Malim Bakodesh, Below Maridim. He's using it colloquially, not literally. I mean,
yeah. It's like the attitude of like, don't do less than you were doing before. So once I've started doing this job, I'm not going to go just sit in the audience.
Okay.
Tani Kavasi Rav Shela. And we have support for both the rooster, whether Geber is a man or a rooster. Tani Kavasi Rav, Gavine Karos Mahu Omer. The Gavini, the crows, the crier. What did he say? When the morning came, he would say, like, everybody get up, Kohanim, go to work, Levim, go to work to your platforms where you sing, and the regular people go to the Mamad was the groups of people that would be kind of the supporting cast in the temple, right? Non-Kohanim and non-Levim. Anyway, he would be shouting, everybody get to work. And his voice would be heard 3 parsa away. So in other words, he had a very loud voice. So clearly, this is indicating that it was a person who did the calling in the morning, who woke everybody up. There was a case of King Agrippas that he was on the road. He heard this guy's voice 3 parsa away. So she go Matalas. And when he came home, when he came back to the palace, he was like impressed with this guy's talent. So he sent him gifts. Kohen Gadol Meshubach Minah. And even though this was an impressive feat, the Kohen Gadol had an even louder voice, even better technique. Diamar, the Kvar Amar Ana Hashem, the Nishma Kolo Biricha. When the Kohen Gadol was saying his confession, and he got to Ana Hashem, it was so loud you could hear it in Yericho, which was even further. As the Amar Rabbi Baruch Chana, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Baruch Chana said, Yericho Yerushalayim 10 parsa. From Yerushalayim to Yericho was 10 parsa. So the Kohen Gadol's voice you could hear 10 parsa away. And this even considering that, presumably the crier had a full night's rest before he started, before he started announcing things. The Kohen Gadol had been up all night. He was probably tired, but even so, his voice was like 3 times, could be heard more than 3 times further away than the crier.
I just read this obituary of this opera singer mezzo soprano who died, and it says like on the night of performances, she wouldn't speak the whole day. If she wanted to communicate, she would write notes and stuff like that. Just, so she would, her vocal cords, she wouldn't tax her vocal cords. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Very good.
There you go.
The town crier, the temple crier was in the daytime. I mean, it was very early in the day. Sorry, no. The Kohen Gadol was in the middle of the day, right, when he was doing the confessional service, and the town crier, it was dark, and they're basically taking the position that sound carries further at night, which I think is actually seems to me to be the case. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe there just isn't a lot of ambient noise around, like there is during the daytime. There's the hustle and bustle of people's activities, where at night it's more quiet. Maybe sounds carry further. Yomer of Levi, Nema in Kol Shalom Nishma B'Yom Kadesh Nishma B'Layla. Levi says, why is it that you're not as loud, your voice doesn't carry as far in the daytime as it does at night? Mivnei Galgal Chama Shemenaser Barakia because of the sun, which is like making noise in the sky. It's like the lumberjack, chopping down cedars, right? The sun works hard and it makes a certain noise. So this is some kind of cosmic radiation, but in an audio form. Sorry?
Who that light effect sound? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Not to my knowledge, but I don't know that much about it.
Oh.
And this kind of racket of the no, not the racket, but the dust that you can see during the day. Sometimes in a ray of sunshine, you can see a lot of dust floating around. So what is that? That is called La. The Nebuchadnezzar. This is what Nebuchadnezzar, the king in the time of Daniel, said. V'chol dairei ara kala chashivin. All the inhabitants of the earth are like La. So really, what it means is they're considered nothing. But here we're interpreting it as that like all the people of the world are like this dust, which we're calling La. If the rabbis taught, if not for the sun, nishma kol hamona shel rami. If it weren't for the sun making all that noise, you'd be able to hear the hustle and bustle of the marketplace in Rome. The ilmale kol hamona shel rami nishma kol galgal chama. You say you haven't heard the sun making any noise. That's because there's interference from the sounds of the market in Rome. That drowns out the sun. So they kind of cancel each other out, if you will. It's kind of a noise cancellation scheme. Tana Rabbanan, and the rabbis taught, Shalosh kol is holchim misofer olam be'atzofer. There are three sounds that go from one end of the world to the other. Ve'eluhain, these are them. Kol gal galchama, the sound of the sun. Kol hamona shel rami, the sound of the Roman marketplace. V'kol neshama b'shah sheyotze min haguf, and the sound of the soul when it leaves the body. V'yesh omrim, what sound is that? You want to know? We'll see in a minute why we've never heard that sound. V'yesh omrim, some say af leva, also the voice of a woman giving birth. So that I could hear. The yesh omrim af ridya, and some say the sound of Ridya. Ridya apparently is the angel that calls out for water, for rain and for water to irrigate the crops. So he's very loud because it's a very important function. And the rabbis, the sages, prayed for the soul that it shouldn't make such a sound. I guess what they were asking for mercy on souls, that they shouldn't, perhaps there was some kind of suffering as they're separated from the body. So they asked for that to be alleviated, and therefore there wouldn't be such a loud cry for that. So that's why we've never heard it, because that one's been canceled. Why we haven't heard the sun? Well, now we know, because it's kind of noise cancellation from the marketplace of Rome and vice versa. So the only really loud sound that we've ever heard is the fourth opinion, which is a woman giving birth. And one might add to that a man passing a kidney stone, I'm told. I don't know. Tani Kwasi Rabbi Shela.
That sound does travel faster, better at night, faster at night, because the air.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because the air is denser. Tends to be.
The air is denser. Interesting. Why is the air denser at night?
Because it's cooler.
It's cooler. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so all of this was digressions on the idea that there was a very loud person who was the crier at the temple. Now, Tani Kavasi Rav Shela, but now we have the opinion of Rav Shela that it was a rooster. The Mishnah is talking about the sound of a rooster crowing. And here is the supporting brisa. A person who leaves for a trip before the rooster crow before Kriyas Hagever. We'll see how we know that means the rooster in this case. So it's like and if he is attacked by demons, it's like his own stupid fault. He shouldn't have left so early. Rabbi Yoshia Omer, Ad Sheishna, V'Yeshomrim Ad Sheyishalesh. Rabbi Yoshia says, wait till the second time. Don't leave. Wait until not only the first time the rooster crows, but at least for the second rooster to crow, and then some say until the third one. What rooster? Now here it's specifically referring to roosters. What rooster are we talking about? We're trying to go based on the average rooster. Okay, so I'm not sure what makes a roost like. Don't go by the early rooster or the late rooster. Go by an average rooster. So anyway, clearly, this source explicitly refers to rooster crowing in the morning, and when it calls Kriyas Hagever, it's referring specifically to a tarnagol, to a rooster. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Now we're going to digress a little bit. When the people went up to Yerushalayim for the holidays, so they all crowded into the temple, and it was a big crowd. This is, by the way, I'm sorry to say, it's a very painful Gemara to study after last week's disaster in Meron, but here it is anyway. So they would stand very crowded, but when they bowed down, Ravachim, there would be lots of room for everybody to bow down, which makes no sense physically, right? If they're all stuffed in together like sardines, there's certainly not enough room for people to stretch themselves out, and yet this occurred. And they took up all the room, including the 11 amma behind the Holy of Holies, right? So remember that there's the Azara, the temple courtyard, surrounds the Heichal, the sanctuary itself, but that was kind of in the middle of the courtyard, and there was space behind it between the back wall of the sanctuary and the back wall of the temple courtyard of 11 amma. My kamar, what does it mean? What's this 11 amma comment supposed to mean? This is what it means. Even though they filled the whole courtyard, including the back part behind the sanctuary, and they were still crowded, so it was so full, like the whole courtyard was crowded. Still, when they bowed down, there was enough space. This is one of the 10 miracles that took place in the temple. So this is a good place to stop. Tomorrow we will go into an extended digression of what exactly were these 10 miracles that happened in the temple. And so get ready for some fun. So Sundays I'm doing tomorrow also for Ellie. So we start at 7:30. Is that right? 7:30. All right. See you all then.
Next week.
Thank you, Dov.
Shavuot
Shavuot tov.
tov.
We're gonna do,
Thank you.
okay. Next week, we're thinking of doing it outside. That's it.
Next Shabbos?
Yeah.
I guess we'll decide towards the end of the week.
Okay. All right.
We'll see what the weather is, etc. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Shavuot tov, everybody.
Okay.